The hospital lobby buzzed with the usual mix of rushing footsteps, ringing phones, and quiet murmurs. In the middle of it all, Mr. Harris slowly made his way to the reception desk. His silver hair was slightly unkempt, and his steps were unsteady, supported by a simple wooden cane. Despite his frail frame, there was a quiet dignity in the way he carried himself. Behind the counter stood Nurse Kelly, tapping her pen impatiently. The moment she saw him, she sighed loudly, as if his presence was an inconvenience. "Name?" she asked flatly, barely glancing at him. "Harris." "George Harris," he replied softly, sliding his old leather wallet across the counter to show his ID. Kelly frowned at the worn wallet and wrinkled hands before pushing a clipboard toward him. "Fill this out. It's basic information. Shouldn't be too hard." Mr. Harris squinted at the small print, adjusting his glasses. His hands trembled slightly as he tried to write. A smirk spread across Kelly's face. "Is that handwriting or chicken scratch?" she muttered, loud enough for others to hear. A couple of patients looked up in discomfort. Mr. Harris lowered his head, quietly enduring the sting of her words. The mockery had begun. Mr. Harris was finally led to a small room with pale blue walls and the sharp scent of disinfectant. He eased himself onto the bed, his cane resting against the rail. Nurse Kelly followed, her clipboard pressed tightly against her chest, her tone clipped and impatient. "Do you need water?" he asked gently, his voice almost apologetic. Kelly didn't even look up. "You're not the only patient here." "Wait your turn," she said curtly, scribbling notes as though he were an afterthought. Minutes turned into nearly an hour before she brought him a small cup, placing it on the far end of the table, just out of his reach. When Mr. Harris tried to get up, his legs shook, and he leaned heavily on the cane. Kelly chuckled under her breath. "Careful, you'll trip over your own feet at this rate." Some junior nurses nearby exchanged uneasy glances, their lips pressed into thin lines, but none dared to intervene. Through it all, Mr. Harris remained silent. His eyes, though tired, held a calm patience that contrasted sharply with her biting words. He endured every remark without complaint. But beneath that silence, something much stronger was waiting to be revealed. The next morning, the hospital buzzed with its usual rhythm, beeping machines, hurried footsteps, and muffled voices. Nurse Kelly continued her rounds with the same sharp tongue, her sarcasm echoing in every room she entered. But whispers had already begun to spread among the staff. One of the younger nurses, Emily, lingered near Mr. Harris's bed. She offered him a warm smile and gently adjusted his blanket. "Don't take her words to heart," she whispered, casting a wary glance toward Kelly. "You deserve better care than this." Mr. Harris gave a faint nod, his eyes twinkling with quiet gratitude. "Thank you, young lady," he replied softly. "Patience is sometimes the strongest weapon." Emily hesitated before leaning closer. "Do you know who you are to this place?" she asked carefully. "Because I think Kelly has no idea." Mr. Harris's lips curved in the faintest smile, though he said nothing more. His silence only deepened the mystery. Unaware of the storm she was walking into, Nurse Kelly scoffed from across the room. "Stop babying him, Emily. He'll be fine. He just likes attention." But in the shadows of the ward, the truth about Mr. Harris was waiting to step into the light. Later that afternoon, the hospital hall grew tense as the sound of polished shoes echoed against the floor. Doctors and nurses straightened up immediately when the hospital director and board members walked in. At the center of the group was Mr. Harris, now seated in a wheelchair, his posture firm and his presence commanding. Gasps rippled through the staff. Nurse Kelly froze, her face draining of color. The frail, old man she had mocked and dismissed was no patient in need of pity. He was the owner of the hospital, the very man who signed their paychecks and built the place they worked in. The director spoke firmly. "Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to reintroduce Mr. Charles Harris, the founder and owner of this hospital." The room fell silent. Every nurse and doctor bowed their heads in respect, except Kelly, who stood stiffly, trembling as her arrogance dissolved into panic. Mr. Harris's voice, calm but cutting, broke the silence. Respect is not optional in this hospital. It is the foundation of care. Sadly, some here have forgotten that. His eyes lingered on Kelly, and the weight of his words struck harder than any scolding. Her reckoning had finally arrived. The silence in the room was unbearable. Nurse Kelly's confident smirk had completely vanished, replaced by trembling hands and eyes that refused to meet Mr. Harris's gaze. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Mr. Harris leaned forward slightly in his wheelchair, his voice steady but sharp. Nurses are meant to heal with compassion, not wound with pride. You saw an old man and judged his worth by appearance alone. That is not care, it is cruelty. The board members nodded in agreement, their expressions stern. Kelly stammered, "Sir, I didn't mean." But Mr. Harris lifted a hand, silencing her. Intentions do not erase actions. You treated me as less than human. What about the patients who truly have no voice? How many of them suffered under your neglect? Tears welled in her eyes. She knew there was no defense. Finally, Mr. Harris turned to the staff. Let this serve as a reminder. Dignity must be given to every patient, no matter their age, status, or strength. If we forget that, we forget the very purpose of medicine. The staff bowed their heads, deeply moved. Nurse Kelly quietly left the room, her downfall complete, while Mr. Harris's words echoed like a lasting truth: respect is the greatest medicine of all. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and leave a thoughtful comment. And for more powerful stories that open eyes and inspire change, subscribe to Echo Resistance today.